увидел брюхо, сразу стреляй! Открылся, стреляй, скотина! Давай, я подсажу! Они внутри! Артем, руку! Эх!
Welcome back to Post-Nuclear Moscow. The day may have been saved last time, but things are certainly not over. This game came out only a few years after the release of the first, meaning that a lot of this game is very similar to the last, with a few changes here and there. So don't be surprised if I end up repeating a few points from the 2033 video. I promise I'll try to make this one different. So, with that said, make sure you're stocked up on ammo, filters, and armor, because we're going to war. This is Metro Last Light.
Так, лестница. Осталось совсем чуть-чуть. И посмотрим, кролик ты или кто. Поверхность. Надевай противогаз. Хватит пялиться на мою задницу, кролик. Не для тебя цвету. Помоги-ка.
Just like with 2033, I'm playing the Redux version of Last Light. This one in particular has its noticeable pros and cons though. The graphics do generally look better than the original and it certainly runs better on newer computers, but I noticed a few issues. For one, I noticed that characters seem to look like they're always covered in sweat. Certain lighting conditions make it more noticeable, but in general, the characters look more like plastic when you see their skin. They look much better with armor on. On top of that, I did find that I crashed a few times here. Specifically when I was escaping the Reds, I found that the game would sometimes just randomly crash. I did the standard stuff of verifying game files and selecting the chapter rather than continuing it, so no save corruptions. And I got no more crashes after I got out of this section, so maybe that level is just broken. Beyond that, most things are the same as before. Game looks good, sometimes a little too dark. There are still a lot of stock sound effects, but some of the new guns sound way better. You finally get new environment on the surface as well. Springtime has arrived, and that means that the surface isn't snowing or frozen anymore. Now it's pouring rain over swamps filled with water mutants that want to eat you. Oh boy. On that topic, what are we doing on the surface now?
Входя в воду, думай о том, что ты должен изменить в своей судьбе. Думай о черном. Дальше! Иди дальше! Не бойся, сюда тебя привел не я, а сама судьба. Думай о черном, и река вынесет тебя к нему.
Last Light takes place 1 year after the events of 2033, specifically in the Ranger ending, where the Dark One nest gets destroyed by missiles. Artyom is a full-fledged Ranger now, and Khan comes rushing to meet him as he's found out that there's one last Dark One still alive, and it appears to be a kid. The Rangers want to kill it, but Khan convinces Artyom to try and speak with it, since he seems to be the only one who can communicate with these things. Unfortunately, this meeting is delayed as the Reich ends up capturing Artyom and the Dark One is later captured as well to be used as a potential weapon. Turns out the Metro is on the brink of war between the Reich, the Reds, and the Rangers over the fate of the D6 facility discovered in the first game because it's full of weapons and resources that can turn anyone holding it into a Metro superpower. So now it's Artyom's goal to find the Dark One and work together to end the war before it can begin. Again, like last time, the story itself is fine and the character writing is actually pretty good, especially for Pavel and most of the Reds you meet. Even the Little Dark One is pretty interesting to talk to, what with its lack of understanding of humans. My issue is with the ending. I didn't care too much about the moral points in the first game, since trying to gain moral points gives you a secret ending if you're really determined to learn the lore, but that special ending isn't really the canon one, the missile ending. But in Last Light, it's different, as the moral ending is the true ending. Now, this game makes it far easier to be passive since you can knock people out rather than having to stealth around everybody, and minimizing kills can give you a lot of moral points. But the moral point system here just becomes nonsensical. Not only do you have to minimize kills of people actively trying to kill you, and the mutants that will leave you alone if you just walk by, but random things can also give you points and take them away. Apparently you get points for giving a child a teddy bear and lose them for spending money at a strip club, both of which I didn't even know existed. On top of that, you gain moral points for sitting and listening to enemy dialogue during stealth, as well as for playing guitars. I only saw one guitar in the whole game, yet apparently playing them gives you a bunch of moral points. You'd think that going out of your way to save innocent women and children, stealthing through most enemy encounters, and sparing as many major characters as possible would determine if I get the good ending, but apparently no. You also need to strum that guitar like your life depends on it. I mean really, the little dark one itself even calls me a good person before the final mission. I thought that indicated the good ending, but apparently not. I went through this completely blind, so I had no idea what did and didn't give points, so it feels really annoying when I go through the entire game being as good and passive as possible, only to be slapped with the bad ending regardless. The bad ending that's not even the canon one either. Anyway, how about the rest of the gameplay?
Еще двое! Огонь! Держись, Артем! Давай! Не дай нас обогнать! Вот он! Как только поравняемся с поездом, перепрыгивай! Иначе остановить его нам не удастся! Красные! Они уже на поезде! Пойдем по параллельному пути! Огонь! Скоро пути сблизятся, Артем! Тебе придется прыгать! Иди в вагон с клетками и освободи черного, а потом рви стоп-кран!
The gameplay is also a lot of repeated points from last time. The ammunition system is the same, the gun system is the same, etc. A lot of it is really just built off of the first game. The only difference I really noticed there is that there are some more gun types now, like sniper rifles, or the fact that all machine guns, including the AK, use basic machine gun ammo now rather than military-grade ammo. Military grade is basically just used if you need something really strong instead, since you're using currency for it. Although I didn't really find myself buying much stuff anyway, so I always had plenty stocked up. Filters function the same way, except later on there's way more of them and there are more monster types to deal with, most of which are just armored monsters that you need to shoot the belly of. Stealth is more viable this time, like I mentioned before. The difference in light is easier to see, making it easier for you to hide in shadows, and the AI is still brain dead. On top of that, there are dedicated animations to stealth takedowns now, so you don't have to hope you backstab was noticed in the last second before you hit your target, and you can choose to just knock them out instead of killing them for those sweet moral points. Although I did notice that you can knock out anyone if you're close enough, even if you're perfectly noticed. So if all else fails, you can just try to run around punching people unconscious while you're getting shot at. The only time this fails is with armored enemies. They can only be killed or ran away from in what I call the librarian method. One last thing I noticed is that the general tone of Last Light feels a bit different. There are way more action scenes and setups in this game than in 2033, so this one feels a bit less like survival horror than the original. But it at least serves to continue the plot, and if I'm being honest, a lot of it does look pretty cool, even if it starts getting weird.
Что это? Что было? Я вслух? Так, значит. И мне что-то подсыпали. Как брату. Да. Отравил. Брата своего. Тот Корбут. Я идиот. Думал, он спасти меня хотел. А он так власть взял. За горло меня взял. И сейчас Д-6 штурмует. А там вирус этот. И если он этот вирус захватит, конец.
Но вы же руководитель! Прикажите! Отзовите войска! Или хотя бы задержите! Выиграйте время!
Здесь все ясно. Скорее, на вокзал! Д-6 мы не отдадим! За мной!
And that is Metro Last Light. All in all, still a very enjoyable experience from beginning to end. My only issues are the apparent instability of the Redux version and the broken moral point system that feels more like a suggestion than an actual system. I don't know, it's weird. Either way, this has been TheRatMan, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I will see you all next year.